my pleasure to introduce our next speakers, Sara-Jayne Terp and John Gray. And the program committee was really excited to get this submission because we so often get questions from folks about, hey, can you create attack for toaster ovens, for example? And as you kind of have seen in our day one intros and you've heard during our updates, we have a lot on our plates and we can't do everything. And we've chosen to scope attack a little more narrowly. But that doesn't mean you can't take our methodology. Take our philosophy. Blake led us in publishing our philosophy paper last year, explaining kind of the why and what and how behind attack. So awesome. Take that and apply it to new domains. And our next speakers have done that in the domain of misinformation. This is obviously a huge topic on a lot of our minds with the election coming up here in the United States. And so we were so pleased to have this talk kicking off our day 2, where Sarah and John are going to be talking about how they took attack methodology and applied it to misinformation. Please join me in welcoming Sara-Jayne Terp and John Gray.
Ooh, clickers.
Yes, we both got them.
Hey. Hey, so I'm SJ, and that's John, just in case you can't tell the difference. Yeah. And we took your baby and did things to it. So there are now 3 layers of InfoSec. There's cybersecurity, which you're kind of used to. There's physical security, and there's now cognitive security. This is that. John, you'll say.
Just a little background, because I'm sure all of you know what the Credibility Coalition is. So we're a research community, started up in 2017 out of the first MisinfoCon event. So it's a collection of journalists, researchers, and ultimately people that have gotten together that care about issues around veracity, quality, and the credibility of online information. And somehow we also believe it's pretty important to have an element of civil society. So ultimately, it's really about creating standards and, again, all about credibility. And we're fortunate that the Credibility Coalition has incubated this project.
Well, we helped start the Credibility Coalition, so kind of they let us in.
Yeah. Well, SJ knows how to knock on doors and move her way through them. So there's 6 different working groups, of which we're one of them, that are currently supported by the Credibility Coalition. As well, part of our project, I think we've got to give a little shout out to the Newmark Foundation for some funding that helped us move this thing along. And in terms of people involved, we have to acknowledge some of the folks that have supported us. It's not just SJ and myself, and we've got a pretty unique blend of people from academic, government, others, and a few of us from the other hats we wear, the companies we also run and think about these issues. So overall, I mean, our big challenge in terms of how we've approached this is thinking through it, creating a framework and working to understand this notion of how communities are organizing attacks, be information-based attacks, be them disinformation, misinformation, and network propaganda. So a big part of this was exercising some rigor in trying to classify a number of these issues.
We probably need to explain what misinformation and disinformation are. Oh, okay,
How about it?
That's on me.
Yes, it is, as we wing it.
So this is not just fake news. So when it started way back, way back,
The olden days.
But 2016, 2017, people were talking about fake news. They thought it was just content, that people were typing things that were false, putting those out. It's not that. The falsity can be in the content, it can be in the context. So a disinformation attack, what we're looking at specifically is large-scale coordinated inauthentic behaviors. So we're looking at where the content might be fake, it might be in the text, it might be in imaging, it might be in video. So you've seen deep fakes, that comes under the umbrella. Cheap fakes, yep.
Pelosi video.
Slow
Slow it down.
Okay, it may be in attributions, it may be in fake groups, it may be in fake users, so botnets come under that, but also trolls, cyborgs. The way that these types of accounts are being set up is changing from being really like glaring, easy to find bots and botnets just on all the time and connected to a hashtag you can find. They're now starting to go nice, low, slow attacks. They're ditching the reach they could get across communities for being harder to find. Just sneaking up.
Just like the problems that were talked about yesterday. Techniques, tactics, they keep changing. Our adversaries are pretty creative at exploiting some of the vulnerabilities. So again, we've really tried to look at this through a lens of asking questions around social and cognitive factors, thinking through some key actions, tactics, obviously some strategies involved. I'm going to a little bit sprint through the who we are, how we thought through this, and how we got here, mainly because SJ and some other folks have done a lot of work that I think some people want to really nerd out on to see how we built it.
We got some time.
True,
Good.
we do. I'm looking at the timer. So we do have a few objectives, and one of the things that we're working for is obviously how we're describing the assets, describing the techniques and tactics that we've worked through in the framework, and moving forward where we're at is now we've essentially gone through this red team exercise, and now we're working towards now the blue team side of things is looking through the techniques that we've identified and figuring out what are going to be some counters for that. So that's on the agenda. Really quickly, as SJ noted, she herself personally and some others have been in this space for some time now. I feel like I'm a bit of a latecomer, but sort of the timeline of our working group.
You've been in a space. We just didn't bring you to the InfoSec dark side till later.
I'm late in being pulled into the dark side, yes. So just a timeline of the work we've done, and really what it boiled down to for us is that we sort of had this mantra is that there's been a lot of admiration about the problem, but not enough action being taken. We don't think that, in essence, the erosion, the attack on democracy, which if we think about this problem through the lens of state actors and their proxies, we don't think democracy's basically got 27 years to wait for a framework, to wait for a proper process, and this is what we've endeavored to do. So, borrowing from sort of our startup thing, we've sat down, a group of us have really worked hard to try to get some stuff done. We've delivered numerous papers, we've done numerous talks. Estee will share stories, at least from the couch, of her zip code's been her license plate, and she's been amazing driving around the country, giving a lot of talks. So, this is the timeline, and coming in a couple of weeks, we're doing our workshop, and then we'll continue to refine things as we move through. And in all fairness, a lot of this has been done, in essence, as a volunteer project. A lot of our teammates, a lot of people that have been behind it, have been doing this while having jobs and doing it out of their own pockets, and they're doing it because they care. We're doing it because we care. So in the first 6 months, ultimately what we did is we open sourced out when we documented what we identified as 63 different incidents or campaigns. SJ will talk about developing the sticks format. So really, the first 6 months has been creating the foundation. We felt really good in August. We delivered the first version of AMITT to GitHub. And then again, here's what we've got moving forward, and it's going to be an evolution. I mean, I think about what I heard yesterday. A lot of you have been in this space for a long time. You've got a real head start on those of us that look at what we call MisinfoSec, so the intersection of misinformation and information security. So let's just say that we've got to move quickly and we've got to keep evolving, and we also see this as definitely a function of community. So just to move through the next slide, a big part of this, and I was impressed hearing this yesterday because obviously it's this issue of having common language across communities, thinking through better defending, creating better tools, and ultimately, looking at this through the lens of a problem that's happening at scale. And as SJ noted, the whole machine learning and AI issue is going to just continue to drive this problem. I hate to say it, I'm rather bullish on our career, sadly to say. We've taken a really multidisciplinary approach to things, so we've had to look at it through a number of different points of view in terms of the misinformation community, so information security, information operations. I'm sure some of you might recognize a name or two that we've tagged with the information security folks. Looking at it, through the lens of conflict, and then again, I think arguably this has been happening since well before, at least in the online space, before 2016, but obviously since 2016 and events of 2016 being looked at as both a social problem and one is an information space that's just full of pollution. And ultimately, a lot of this is going at scale. So SJ is going to take it away. I've been her Ed McMahon
Let's go,
today.
Techie. So we've got a problem. We've got large-scale coordinated misinformation attacks. It looks very similar to early InfoSec attacks. I said at the beginning of last year that we're pretty much at the cuckoo's egg stage of development of this, as from the bad guy's point of view. I think we've gone past the Morris worm now. We're kind of heading over into early virus checkers. But we don't have time to create an entire new response field, so we've stolen yours. So we've got a large-scale problem. It's a whole system problem. We need a whole system response. We need to do it at speed, at scale, where our endpoints are human beings, human communities, who have all sorts of fun things like those cognitive biases you were talking about. So we've got about 200. They're all individual vulnerabilities, each of which we can hit in different ways. So yeah, OODA loops, we got them. We got them in many scales. So systems, we're looking at these as systems. And we didn't have a framework, so we need to go look for one. We needed to create communities. So all those different viewpoints, we needed to combine in some way. So we went out and started creating them. So we created MisinfoSec, MisinfoSec working group, but also MisinfoSec, a larger community. We found everybody we could who was working on this boundary between misinformation and InfoSec, threw them into one place, started talking to each other. People-centered internet, the Windsurf organization. Some of us are part of that as well. We're looking at how we can work from the bottom, from human communities, to connect those into whatever grid we produce. IRC, there is now a cognitive security ISAO. You probably haven't heard of it yet. We're still kind of like writing stuff on it. But Deb Kobser down at the Florida Space Center is running it. And it's putting out reports already. It just needs some messaging formats. That's kind of on us. But we need to connect together all these different groups in some way and get them talking the same languages. So one of the problems we have, or we had when we started working out how all this connects together and what we needed to put together, was we had no big lists of threats, and we had no big list of incidents. We had to go build them. And as we built them, we realized that we were looking at different views. So we had the attacker view. So the attacker sees the whole space. And what they see, so we started originally looking at, we talked about attacks, and we were trying to work out what an attack as a time-limited thing. And we discovered there were different sizes. So for instance, 2016 election, the Internet Research Agency, Russian Internet Research Agency on the American elections was about 2 years long. It was different to something like Pizzagate. It was different to something like Columbia Chemicals, our favorite example. So we decided that the big ones were campaigns. We had advanced persistent threats, which Clint Watts now calls advanced persistent manipulators. And then we have these incidents within those. But as human beings base themselves on stories, narratives. So narratives are the stories that we base our belonging on. We base our sense of how we belong to communities, our in-groups, our out-groups, who we are. So narrative is the level at which we fight. So there's a lot of work happening now on narrative tracking, and we look at, and we're starting to report out narratives. But what you see as a data scientist on the internet, tracking through this, and I am a data scientist, so I spend a lot of time down in the weeds, is you see artifacts, you see messages, you see users, well, accounts, not necessarily users. You see connections between these, you see connections across platforms. So you see a bunch of stuff at the bottom, and you have to work your way back to, is this an incident? Is this a coordinated and authentic campaign? So this is one of the important diagrams. because this is, we track at the incident level, we fight at the narrative level, but we basically get stuff at the artifact level. And if we're really, really, really lucky and we get intelligence information, we get information at the campaign level. So stuff we built. Luckily, we don't need to tell you about this stuff. So stage-based models. We looked at a huge pile of models. So we looked at models for marketing, because marketing models are really, really useful for things like extremism. So it turns out that a sales conversion model is exactly what you need when you're looking at how to do extremist conversions. We looked at PSYOPs models, information security models, information operations models. So PSYOPs models already used to run campaigns. So, okay, let's go look at these. Can we use these? Can we use these to map misinformation campaigns? We looked at existing MisinfoSec models. There were a couple around. Justice Department had a really lovely one. Who, if you're in the room, thank you, you're great. And we looked at information security models. And we looked at the cyclic models, and we looked at stage-based models, and we absolutely adored the cyber kill chain because it covered everything, but we really adored ATT&CK because we loved the idea of having the stages and then this breakdown into TTPs, because that's what we needed. You actually had what we needed. And we tried really, really, really hard to fit misinformation into the ATT&CK framework as it exists, and we couldn't make it work. I'm sorry, we tried. We really tried. We think that actually, ultimately, we'll probably end up as parallel branches. We'll end up doing our thing, you'll end up doing your thing, we'll both end up doing hierarchical things, and we'll end up merging in the end. But for the moment, we're different. So yeah, we extended you. And one of the problems, we didn't have these catalogs, so we had to go build them. There were pieces of catalogs all over the world. The Oxford Internet Institute had one, there's some at NATO. Nobody had a standard for it, so we built a standard. You know, there are 2 STIX extensions we're putting in. Come find you, MITRE person that said you'll come help with that. We're putting in for incident and narrative. Those are the 2 pieces we need to carry misinformation messages across into STIX and across all of the other taxi and MISP and all the rest of it. But this is one of them. So we needed to populate. So I've already talked about internet research, the elections, Columbia Chemicals. But another thing that was a useful source of information was failed attempts. Russia does not have a lot of luck in France. French education system, France gets prepared, has some really good texts, yada, yada, yada. But just like InfoSec, failures tell us things. One of them that tells us is resilience and counters. We're in 2 weeks' time. We're doing a workshop on counters, so I'm busy collecting those, which is kind of useful. Again, we learned from you. So this is what one of the data sheets looks like. This is our favorite example. If you're on Twitter, you'll see this as a STIX graph. So just a very small example. One day, people in an area woke up. There are chemical factories in the area. There was a message on their thing saying, stay inside, there's a fire. There was no fire. We think it was a really early Russian test message. We've been seeing these since 2010 BP oil spill. So Kate Starbird up at the University of Washington has been tracking those, does really good work on that. And we started feeding those, started looking at techniques. So this is one of the techniques. Paid targeted ads is a technique. So we pulled all this together, and I'll head forwards because time. So we built this. So this is our baby. It's not as big as ATT&CK because we just built it off 22 different incidents, a day with a bunch of experts, and an awful lot of Post-its and a wall. So we pulled out all of the tactics and techniques from 22 incidents. We Post-ited the heck out of it. We grouped them. We went through the stages. Then we looked at all of the other models that existed, including ATT&CK, and we went back and said, do these things contain? This one might help more. These are the stages we have. The big purple and red things, those are phases. So while we were looking, so we realized that there were other pieces from the models that we could include. So for example, the planning stages came from the PsyOps models. The evaluation came from the ad tech, the advertising models. So if you have an incident that's part of a campaign, you're going to run it, but you're also going to check what worked to feed into the next incident. So again, this is kind of not pretty, but the blue line is the tactics, the grays are the techniques. I will give you the address at the end of this. And the purple are the left of boom, the red are the right of boom. So I believe in your parlance, the purple are the pre-attacks and the red is the attacks. We need help with this. And this is just where we start. And I suspect some of you will probably go back and think, hey, cool, we can do this too. That would be absolutely bloody awesome. So this is where we are at the moment. And we've already had people starting to use this and starting to pick out techniques and starting to share techniques used in individual attacks. And the next thing that we've started doing is the sticks part of this. So we did the mapping. So this is the mapping between misinformation sticks and InfoSec sticks. And again, we got an almost one-to-one map between the two. We can carry misinformation on straight sticks as long as we put the incidents into intrusion sets and narratives into malware. It's not pretty. The diagram I've put up this morning on Twitter uses intrusion sets and malware. It would be nicer to have two separate objects, incident and narrative. Make that a lot cleaner. But it works. It works. It's beautiful. We can carry that. We can match that into InfoSec. And it also means that finally, we can match the work on the data science people are doing to the work that the information operations people are doing. And we can talk to each other. We've got a language at last. Sticks graphs, so yeah, we can do this. We can talk about threat actors, same way you've been doing for years. Finally, we can do this, and we can do it formally, and we can reason about it, and we can start doing the science. It just becomes cleaner. And we can feed that to the ISALs. At the moment, there are email reports going out to the ISALs and ISACs on misinformation. Now we can start doing the real-time feeds as soon as we get this stuff. So this is where we're going next. We've got that blue team workshop coming up, talking about counters. So just as you were picking off all of the techniques, one by one, we're doing one-by-one technique level counters, we're doing tactic level counters, we're doing process procedure level counters, and we're looking for anything that is interesting and weird on top of that. We'd like AMITT or some form of AMITT to be in the misinformation response centers coming through. We've been talking not just in this country, but to other bodies as well. And we'd like to start testing against new incidents. We've been so busy, wrapped up in just trying to get a standard going. Literally gave ourselves a year to try to build some sort of response, some sort of way of responding formally and well and bringing in a whole new crowd. So yeah, find the response populations, find people who can use this, and get going with it. And you want to go find the updates. MisinfoSec.org is one of the group's sites. It's got a page in there for AMITT. There's a GitHub repo. What we do on AMITT ends up in the repo. So that's us.